Passwordless authentication is a thing now. There are multiple e-commerce websites, and even if you are planning to build a website for yourself, the passwordless authentication is a way to go. What exactly is passwordless authentication? It's nothing but the buttons like these, where you can just log in with Google on your website. Now, in this particular video, I'll talk how to log in with Google, and I have actually created one another video where I have explained the step-by-step process on how to log in with Google in your website and how to create that flow using Java and a simple HTML and one or two steps to be done in the Google console. So those things I have already talked about. What exactly I'm going to talk about today is that there is one important thing to note in the traditional login method, that when you click on login, when you click on these logins, the page has to be refreshed. Basically, when you click, a pop-up comes and then you are redirected back to your page, something like this. So if I show you how it used to work, that you have to click on these continue, and please notice the current URL. Now, if I click on continue with Anubhav, it will automatically sign in and the page will change. Now it has sent me to the home page. So that was the traditional login method. That is, you click on login and then you are redirected to the home page. And it is okay. I mean, it works fine because you can be redirected to one of the pages. You can have some logic by having some of the states, and you can again come back to the page where you wanted to come or where you were earlier, but it still requires bunch of reloads. I have discussed this in one other video. I'll link somewhere at the top right, that this particular things how it works. Now it impacts the conversion rate. Imagine you reach a website or you are in a website, and the login with Google does not even have to reload your page. That would be even the best thing. So let me just show you what exactly I am trying to explain. Let's say I reached a particular website, and now I just have to click on continue as Anubhav, and notice the web page URL. It's jslogin.html, nothing fancy here. And when I click on continue with Anubhav, continue as Anubhav, you see the page does not even have to be reloaded. Now this is a modern thing which many of the websites are implementing, and it impacts, or it impacts in a good way their conversion rate. So if you reach a website, let's say you visit an e-commerce platform and you like something and you want to buy that particular thing from their website, now you see that you need to log in to their portal. Now, instead of reloading and refreshing and losing the context and maybe possibly losing the customer, why not you can have a login button, and why not you could log in a way in which the web page does not even have to be reloaded. In that way, what will happen, whatever you are seeing in your website, that will still continue. So let's say this is the website, you will reach the website, the login will happen. It can happen automatically, or you can click on login, and then the page does not change. So this is what I'm going to talk about today, how to do that. Now, the other video on the fundamentals, all those things have been covered in the previous video, but I'll still go ahead and talk about those fundamentals in this video as well. So there are few things you need to keep in mind when you set up such things in your website. And the technology which I'm going to use is, for backend, I'm going to use Java. For frontend, I'm going to use a simple HTML file, nothing fancy, simple HTML, no Node.js or all those fancy things, because personally for me, I'm more comfortable in Java, and I assume many people are. So the backend will be in Java, the front end will be in HTML, and then we'll have some of the settings to be done in the Google Cloud. So those three things are needed. So let me just go through and explain a bunch of things so that we can get started. So these are the three things which are needed. Account in console.cloud.google.com. It's very easy to set up. I think if you go to this website, you will be able to set up your account, and you don't even have to pay anything to begin with here. And then I'll talk about the front end code, and then I'll talk about the back end code. And the flow, as you see, it's simple. There will be a UI. you will be redirected to accounts.google.com or this one tap login, and then you will be redirected back, and then you have to verify your token. So I'll talk about all these things in the coming few minutes. So this is how the web page looks like. And in fact, if I reload, I have an option of automatic login. This is called as the one tap login option by Google. And the other is of course the sign in, traditional sign in button. So even this works. I just have to click, and then the callback will happen to the initial web page, and then the login can happen. So these two things are there, nothing fancy, and I think you would be able to deal and understand how things work here. So this is how it is, and let's get started with the flow one by one. So the first thing is what you need to be comfortable, or what you need to set up, is this console.cloud.google.com. You go here, you create your account in Google Cloud because you want to have a login with Google in your website. So you need to go to console.cloud.google.com and set up a bunch of things. What you need to do is, first of all, create a project. You just have to go click on the top left and create a new project. I already created one, so I'll not create here. I created this SRTMC project, and then you choose that project in the drop down, click on these three lines, go to API and services, and then go to credentials. Here in the credentials page, what you need to do is to create a OAuth client ID. So just click on create credential, and then you can actually create a client ID. So that's what I have created here, and you just need to save the client ID for yourself. Client secret we don't need here, and don't worry, I'll delete it after the recording of the video. So this secret needs to be saved by you, and nobody else should have access to the secret. And here you see I have bunch of things configured, like the origin URL, that is the URL on which my website is hosted. So here it is hosted on localhost 8080, so that's what I have put here. I don't need localhost 8081, I'll just remove it. And just one important thing is that whenever you run things on local, you have to put both localhost and localhost 8080. So that's how they have recommended. So I just have to follow what they have recommended, nothing special. Likewise, where the redirection will happen on the same localhost 8080 and localhost. I just need to click save here so that the things are saved. And I also need to take care of one important thing, that's a OAuth screen, that's a login screen. So how it looks like is that when you click on login with Google, these things will show up here. So for me it will show up as Anubhav Dev, or I can make better dev with doesn't matter, you can have whatever you want to, and this will show up in the UI. So it just helps people to understand what is going on and all those things. So I have saved the stuffs here. Keep everything else as empty. We don't need anything. We just need a very basic information of the customer, like email address, their age, not even age, the first name, last name, family name. So those things are needed. Very basic information. For those we don't need any scope or anything, because the moment you add any scope, the things will complicate, and we don't want that. For example, if you need access to person's calendar, so it a higher privilege information, so we are not going to deal with all those things. We'll just keep things default. That's a OAuth consent screen. So those things are done here and saved here, and I have saved the client ID. As you can see, the in the credentials page, I can see the client ID. I can copy it. Now what I need to do is to go to this website, developers.google.com. And here they have a particular page called as generate HTML code. So here what I need to do is to, of course, generate the HTML code. And here what I need is, the page should not even refresh. The refresh flow I have already discussed in another video. I would have already linked it somewhere in my video. But here what I need is a sign in. I will paste the client ID here, and let me just copy the client ID from here, paste it here, and then the login URL. So what I need is a JavaScript callback function. So basically there were two options. One was that I could refresh the page, but I'm not going to refresh. So here I need a callback. So whenever whenever a success happens, basically you go to account.google.com, and whenever the success happens, the redirection will happen on the UI itself. So you will get a success in the UI itself. So which method should be called? You can create a method something like on success or so. So here you can name the method as callback. So basically this method will be called when a success happens. And then we need a one tap login as well as enable with Google sign in button. So we need both the sign in button as well as the one click login. So you click on this and then you just click on get code and see how simple the code looks like. It's a very simple code. I think you just have to copy it and then paste it in your HTML file and it will work. You also need to take care of one more important thing which they have mentioned in this particular doc, that you need to import that script. So this is their script which you need to import. Now what I have done is that to demonstrate all these things, I have created a Java project. That's a Spring based project. So I've created that project using Spring Boot, and I think many of you would be aware how to create the Spring Boot project. If not, it's very simple. You can search online how to create one. And here in this project, the project which I have created, and I'll put the link of the project in the description, the GitHub link. What I have here is a few things. One is it's a Maven based project, so I had to import the Google Client library and bunch of MVC stuff. But the important thing is this JS login. So there are two other files, but this is not part of this video. This is part of the other video which I have already linked. So here what I have done is that I have just copied and pasted the div, the content which was there in my HTML file, which is the generated code which was there in the generate the integration code. So I copied that code and then I pasted that code here. And then all I had to do was to first of all import the script that I want to have this script. Otherwise what will happen, nobody will understand what these things mean. So first of all you import this script in your code, and then you create a div. Basically whatever output will come, you want to append it. So basically I have to implement a callback method. So this callback which I defined in the UI there, and then I copied and pasted the code here. So I have to implement this API or a callback function. So whenever a login gets successful, this callback method will be called. And here, when a callback method is called in the UI, I'll get the credentials, basically the auth token from the login with Google. It's actually called as the ID token. So you get that ID token here, and then what you need to do is to make a call to the backend. Backend will be owned by you. So you will make the call to your backend to verify whether this particular ID token is valid or not. So this is the call you will make to your backend, and if the response is successful, then if the token is valid, then you will display the information about the customer. So this is a simple JavaScript. Basically I want to show some of the information about the customer in the UI if the login is successful. So those information I'll get from the backend. So the verification has to be done in the backend, because in the front end it's of no use to verify, right? Because anyone can change anything in the front end. So why do you even want to rely on the front end? Rely on the backend. And then the subsequent request will be just handled by the sessions and the session ID, which will be again handled by the backend. So the important thing is that you trust the backend more. In fact, you trust the backend. You never trust the front end, because the front end is in the user's machine and anyone can just modify anything. So you verify the token from the backend, you get the data and render the stuffs. So this is the UI part, how the UI part looks like. Now if you see in the UI part, the important API which I have to implement is this, any endpoint, but you have to create a API. So I created an API called as /js callback. You could have any of the API, any controller, and that is okay. So here I have created a controller called as JS callback, but you could even name it whatever you want to. So I created this controller slash JS. It's a REST controller, which means it will return the JSON response and it will take the JSON request. In the request body, what I'm taking is a credential. Basically, I'm taking the credential from the request. It's a credential is nothing but a token give which came in the callback. So that's a token which came in the callback uh, in the controller. So I just have to verify the token. The first thing what I do is that verify if the token is correct or not. So I can just go to this method. I created a method called as verify token. So here I have a Google methods. So I have already put the client ID here. So this is just a template thing. Whatever Google is asking, I just did that. So it's a Java based code and I have already imported their library in my POM XML. If you can see here, it's a Google client library. So they take care of all the standard security measures. So it is better to use their API than to call the verification API yourself. You could do that, but I would say just use the Google's library and the Google's API. So here, if we go to session service, we verify the token, if the token is valid or not by calling the method. And if the token is valid, it will give us bunch of information like email ID, user ID, and name, picture, family name, given name. So these things come as default in the token. So those things will get, and then we'll set those things in the response body. Basically, response object. I have one response object as session data. I have kept these things here, and then in my JS controller, I'll just return it. I'm doing one more thing here is to create a random session ID, and I'm putting that session ID in the cookie so that subsequent requests or the subsequent requests whichever come to my controller, I can just look into the cookie header that what exactly is the session ID, and I don't have to worry about anything else. So I just look in the subsequent APIs, I'll have a session ID and I can get the data. So I think we are clear what things are happening overall in the JS controller, that we verify the token and then we set the session ID in the cookie. So these things we are doing here. Now let me just show how things work. So I'll go to and I have put all these things in this code, and I'm sure you would be able to understand how things work. And I'll put all the link of the video and all those things in this particular login with Java, and I'll link in the description as well. Now let's go to this login JS function, and let me put cancel here, and let's see what is happening in the developer tools so that we understand. So you saw how simple the login is, right? And it's not as scary as it sounds. So click on this continue. It will verify from Google, and then the JS callback, it makes a HTTP call to the backend to verify whether this particular payload is correct or not. And in the response, what I get is that yeah, it's a 200 response with a bunch of information about me, and this is just a front end code to render that data. So everything is happening in this same page. There is no redirection, you can say, that is happening. So if I just to show you one more thing, so my UI logic is just to append the whatever response comes. So let's say I do a sign in with Google here. You see, things just get appended at the end. So what I want to say is that the reload is not happening. You just reach a particular page, everything happens internally. So it's very simple for the user, and the conversion rate will be very good. If you have an e-commerce platform, I would recommend to use this because you have minimum number of redirections that happen. And now you have a sample code as well, which I have put here. So in my sample code, I just want to talk a bit about the sample code. What I have done is that this is the HTML controller which is for the redirection flow, and I have created a 30 minutes video for this one. And the new controller is the JS controller, which is a controller which will be used as a for the dynamic page that's without the reload flow. So this is the controller for that. And if you see both the controllers, HTML controller here, they look pretty much same except for a few differences. The important difference, one of the important differences is that in the reload flow you also have to verify the cookies, but in this one you don't have to verify the cookies, because here the callback comes, there are so many redirections, right? So it's important to verify whether the cookie is correct. So basically there is a cookie value which comes to you from the browser, and there's a cookie value which comes from Google in the redirection. So those two cookie value, one in the payload and one in the cookie, actually these two values should match. So that validation is needed in the redirection flow. This particular thing is not needed in the in the case when the redirection does not even happen. So we don't have to do the cookie validation here, but the rest of the things are the same. So I think I was able to explain things, and I think you would be able to understand how things work. So these were the two controllers. These are just the model classes. That's a request comes and the session data, which has bunch of information. And this is nothing but a main method. And in the services, what I have is a cache. Basically, session I'm maintaining in an object. It's just a hash map. But in the production, what you will do is that you will put session ID in Redis or some external store, so that you can get things from there. But nevertheless, this was not my idea or intent to explore how to store this cache or the key value pair in the Redis. I think you can do that. Here I just created a session cache, basically a object which stores the keys and the values. So that next time whenever a session ID comes in the request, you can just check it. And session services, again, is just a few methods which you can use. So basically it's a session cache, and here session service is actually verify token, and there are a bunch of methods which will be used for the helper stuffs. That's it. And I think the JS login is the one which is most important here. The other one, HTML login and home, this will be used in the redirection flow, so you can ignore that. But that would be important in the previous video, so it's just a continuation in this particular thing. So here the JS login. So in this particular video, the files which are important are JS login, then you have a session service, session cache, then here the important thing would be the both the models and the JS controller. So these things would be important for this particular video, and of course the POM and the Spring based project. So I think I was able to explain how things work, and I think you would be able to understand how you are able to log in with Google without reloading your page. So if you own any product, or if you own any website, or anything, it could be even your personal project or by your company. So I would recommend to use this flow, because it just does not change the context. So especially it is important in the e-commerce world where the things are so competitive that you don't want a drop off. So here the drop off won't happen, because you will just log in, you just refresh a page, and the login will happen then and there itself without reloading the page. So do try it, and that's a call for action, that do try it in your particular project and let me know how things go. And also comment that how you felt, and basically what are the doubts you have. I would be happy to answer your questions. And yeah, that's it from my side for this video. I hope you liked this particular video, and do comment and like. It really makes a difference, and it encourages me to make more such videos. So that's it from my side for this video. Till the next time, bye.